All right guys, so we are back out here on the Ridstar Q20, and I wanted to do a little bit of an update video on this bike because it's been a year now and I've driven this thing over 735 miles, which is crazy to say on something with pedals. But yeah, I've really ridden this bike a lot and I put a lot of miles on this thing. And I think I put it through the ringer. I've taken it on road, I've taken it off road, and I've really used this bike, and I wanted to give you guys an update because I know a lot of people are interested in this bike. I have multiple videos with over 100,000 views on this bike specifically, so I know that there's a demand for people wanting to see information on this bike. And when you're making an investment in a bike like this, you know, $1,000 plus, you want to make sure that it's going to be good long term. You want it to be breaking and having to service it and stuff all the time. I know a lot of people have bought this bike as their form of transportation to be able to get around town. Whenever I ride this thing, I'm reminded how much I like this, and I would even say that this is still like my favorite bike to ride. Like the riding position, the power, the smoothness of this bike. I think that if this was a dual motor bike, that would be even better. But honestly, this bike doesn't even necessarily need it, even though there is a dual motor variation, and that's a bike that I'd really love to get on the channel. And so like I said, this is still one of my favorite bikes, and it's probably my favorite looking bike that I have. This thing looks like a little mini motorcycle. It looks like a little off-road dirt bike or something, and the brakes are still the best in my collection of bikes. The headlight is really good on this bike if you're gonna be riding at night. And this thing is just a really great package for around $1,000. Now, I'll say this, the e-bike market has changed a lot since I bought this bike. You know, there have been a lot of companies that have popped up. There's been a lot of bikes, even generic ones like this on Amazon, that have popped up for around that $1,000 price point. And so you can get a lot of bike for relatively cheaply. I was thinking, you know, is this bike still worth it? You know, with these specs, is this bike still worth it? And I honestly can say, yeah, it is. I think this bike is still well worth its $1,000 price. It's retails for about $650 on Amazon, but they charge you like $300, $350 shipping, I think. So, you know, a lot of people complain about the shipping and everything, but still for $1,000, like, this is not a bad bike at all. So even a year on, I still think that even though the e-bike market has changed and there has been a lot of new bikes, I think that this is still a really good value for the speed that you get, for the motor, for the battery. It's all good. And by the way, this is a 48 volts bike. It comes with a 20 amp hour battery and a 1,000 watt hub motor in the rear. Like I said, they do have a dual motor variation of this bike. Ooh, we're taking it off road. But this is plenty of power to go off road and everything. I weigh about 150 pounds and I'm 5'9", but I can ride this bike off road. And this is a slight uphill here too, and I'm still able to go off-road on this bike still. So initially I was really impressed with this bike and its off-road capability for like riding on trails and stuff like this rocky trail and all this stuff like we're going over right now. And I'm actually still on the same knobby tires that this thing came with. And they still have plenty of life. Even after over 700 miles, I still have a good amount of life left in these tires. The battery also has held up really well. It has a lot of charge and discharge cycles on it because, like I said, I've ridden this thing a lot. And after 700 miles, you know, I've charged this thing dozens and dozens of times now. And obviously all batteries degrade, but I really haven't noticed much degradation as far as my like range numbers and everything on this bike. I can still get 25, 30 miles plus on this thing just on throttle only. I don't really pedal this bike that much. It's not super comfortable to pedal. And I ride mostly on, you know, streets and paved surfaces like this, but I do take this bike off-road quite a bit, especially when this was my only bike back in the day. But I still take it off-road, and like you saw back there, it is super capable of going off-road and everything. But just for riding through neighborhoods like this, it gets the job done real well. And it accelerates pretty quick for what it is. You're not gonna be doing wheelies or anything, but this thing is quick enough. And if you've never been on an e-bike, you're gonna be thoroughly impressed with this, I think. One sort of gotcha about this bike, for me at least, is the rear suspension. The front fork suspension is fine. It's pretty soft actually, but the rear suspension, there's like no travel, especially on the stock spring. So if you're gonna buy this bike, especially if you're gonna ride it off-road or on bumpy roads, you're probably gonna wanna buy a new rear suspension for this bike, which again is gonna cost you probably another 50 or 100 bucks at least. But I put a coil suspension on the rear on this thing, and it really didn't do that much, but it did make it a little bit softer. So that is the one thing about this bike, is its rear suspension isn't the best, but I think you can deal with it for this price especially, and most people aren't riding on crazy off-road or crazy rough roads, so even on a fairly rough road like this, like, it's still fine. By the way, there's no turn signals on this bike. So if you're going to be using this in the city or something, you know, you might want to add on your own turn signals. But they do not come standard on this bike. Oh yeah, going in places I shouldn't be going. That's why I love e-bikes. Battery life, like I said, has been really good. And as far as like reliability and everything, I've never had any issues with this bike leaving me stranded. I've never even gotten a flat on this bike. Like I said, still original tires and tubes, but I know that there are people who have had issues with the screens on these bikes, dying on them. And apparently they got sent a new screen and everything got fixed. But it still would be a pain in the butt to be stuck or to not have access to your bike because the screen's broken. I don't know for certain like what parts and stuff they're using on this bike now, but I know that this has been really rock solid for me, and the reviews still are really good on this bike, and I've heard great things about this bike still, even a year later. So I think they've handled all that stuff, but yeah, just be aware that some people have had issues with the screen, but I don't really see that being super widespread. But it does suck when you can't use the bike that, you know, you paid all this money for. But man, like the places that I've been able to go on this bike, like even on this off-road terrain, I would never want to pedal on this. And the fact that this bike has allowed me access to so many different places and things that I've never been able to see before, even just in my local area, like this is so much fun. I know a lot of people ask me about, oh, I'm 4'3", can I ride this bike? Well, no, you probably should be like 5'3" and above, but ooh, let's go over here on this trail. Let's see what's over here. Never mind, the grass is too long. I'm not doing that. I don't really feel like getting a tick right now. All right, let's power our way out of here. Ooh, I am impressed. I've been riding my dual motor Yeet S8 a lot lately, and this bike in single motor mode, the Yeet feels kind of sluggish, but this bike still has like it has some pep to it. I don't know if there's a stronger motor on this bike or if it can output more power, but I have a feeling that the battery on the Yeet is a little bit less powerful since, you know, it is driving two motors and everything. But anyways, this bike has been amazing for me this past year, and this bike really more so has opened my eyes to the world of e-bikes, and it kind of helped this channel grow because, you know, I've gotten so many views on videos from this bike. So I want to thank you guys for watching that. I haven't really had any issues with this bike really, besides the front brake was a little bit squeaky, but I ended up fixing that right up with some new pads, and I just sanded the rotor down a little bit. The pads on this thing were hard to find. I made another update video talking about that. But you can go on Ridstar's eBay page, and they do sell the pads for this brake rotor. Besides the brakes, I really haven't had any issues with this bike. Like I said, it's never left me stranded, and nothing major has gone wrong with this bike. It's always been reliable, always been powerful, and it's just been a great bike overall. And I can't say enough good things about this bike. Still one of my favorite bikes to this day, even though I've ridden a bunch of different bikes lately. And this is still one of my favorites. So if you are interested in picking this bike up, I'll leave a link in the pinned comment and in the description. I do get a commission if you buy through those links, but it does help support this channel. It helps me buy this dual motor variation of this bike because I would like to get that on the channel. That would be sick. And I've heard good things about that one, but it still is over like $2,000. So we'll see about that. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching the channel. Thank you so much for supporting. And if you do buy this bike, I think you're gonna like it. So go ahead, click that link in the description if you want to pick this thing up, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.